deserves vacation, as we all do. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. So, are you seeing the right version of the slides? You're not seeing the presenter view?
I'm seeing two slides.
I'm seeing the presenter view.
All right. Unfortunately, let's see. The Zoom covers the toolbar there. Okay, now we're good. All right, so we're going to talk about nutrition today, which is my favorite topic. And we're going to talk about it in the framework of the Resiliency and Wellbeing Center, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But first, we're going to get right into the nutrition. Okay, so this is my favorite nutrition resource. This is the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate. If you've seen me talk in here before, you may have seen me bring this up before. And on the next slide, I will also have a link to this, and you'll get the slide so you can just link through and get there. This is not dissimilar from my plate, which is what the government puts out there, but I would argue this is more evidence-based, and it's for just a few slight tweaks. The first one being that over here we have water as your beverage. And the reason it's important that water is your beverage is because it doesn't have any calories. And so you're not adding empty calories, or at least calories that aren't bringing a lot of nutrition into your diet. And so that's a really important point that I want you to remember. Not that you can't have beverages with calories in them. It's just, those are going to add to your calories, which means they're taking away from your food down here and giving you more limited amount of calories to get all the nutrition that you need. So most of your beverages should be water or something similar to water, like tea or coffee that don't have any calories or have very low calories. The other really important thing I want to point out here is the healthy oils. So, historically we had this thing that, we went low fat and we thought that was healthy. And now we realize that it was not, particularly because what we substituted with often when things were low fat, they were like refined carbohydrates, which we know are not good for us, right? Like if you remember Snackwell cookies, we all thought those were healthy because they were low fat. There was nothing healthy about them. And so we need to have some healthy fats in our diet. Why is that? Well, our body needs some of these fats because it can't make them themselves. So things like omega-3 fatty acids, which you get from fatty fish or from nuts or algae. If you're a vegan, you can take an omega-3 supplement that's from algae. And they're really important because your body can't make them, but also your brain is actually half fat. 50% of your brain is made of fat. And so if you don't have enough fat in your diet, particularly of the ones your body can't produce on its own, you're going to have cognitive issues. And so we want to make sure we're giving all those good healthy fats to our body to be able to build the things that it needs to build. The other key take home from this is this big plate here. And so this is kind of a goal. You could see this as something for any individual meal, or you could think of it as this is what you want your food to look like over the course of a day or even a week, whatever works best for you. But this is kind of the goal of where you want to go. And with that, you want to have healthy protein, which could be things like fish or beans or nuts or poultry, limiting red meat, cheese, and then avoiding bacon, cold cuts, and other processed meats. And then the rest of it is plants. And what do we call that? That's plant-based, right? So this is actually a plant-based diet. And your healthy protein can be plants as well, or it could be non-plant sources. And that would still be a plant-based meal because 51% of more of your diet is plants. So that's really the goal, is having most of your diet be plants, a diet based on plants. And another terminology that's becoming popular for that is plant forward or plant centric. So we're not talking about vegan or vegetarian necessarily. You could be a flexitarian. You could be an omnivore and just eat small amounts of meat. All of those things fit into this model of what healthy eating might look like. And then here's that link I was telling you about that you can click through for the Harvard Nutrition Source. Lots of great information in there. I'm a particularly big fan of their newsletter. And the reason their newsletter is good is because whenever something is happening in pop culture, like there's a fad diet that's coming through, they'll cover that and give you the actual science behind it. And so because of that, I would really recommend, I just see there's a question, which I'm going to cover that, but I really recommend signing up for the newsletter. So the question is canola oil, healthy? Okay, so this is actually not a simple question. And the reason is because it depends on how you look at it. If we're talking about just saturated versus unsaturated fats, which is one way of looking at a healthy fat, because all these healthy fats here that we're using in this graphic are liquid at room temperature, and that means they're unsaturated fats. And you want to have most of your fats be unsaturated fats. And so in that way, canola oil could be considered a healthy oil. And some people would put it in that group for that reason. On the flip side, most of the things that we think about as being healthy oils or healthy unsaturated fats are things like olive oil that have a lot of polyphenols in them or phytonutrients. They're also called phytonutrients. And these are plant chemicals that are really beneficial to our health. And I'm going to talk more about them later. But they're also really beneficial for the oil itself in that it actually keeps it quite stable. It doesn't oxidize or go rancid. And it also, even at high heats, can protect the oil from oxidizing. So things like olive oil are going to be much, much, much better for you than canola oil. So if you have a recipe that you can swap canola oil for olive oil, do it. That is definitely going to be a healthier choice. Now, if we're talking about lard versus canola oil, then it gets a little bit more difficult because lard is a saturated fat and it's not so great for you. But it is a whole food in some sense. I would put those probably both in the category of if you have to use them for a recipe, use them, but really try to avoid them. And I knew this one was going to come, coconut oil. So avocado oil is very similar to olive oil in that it typically has some polyphenols in it, but olive oil is still going to trump avocado oil. And the next one would be coconut oil. So coconut oil, as you may notice, is solid at room temperature. And so that means it's a saturated fat. So you do want to limit the amount of it that you have. That being said, there's quite a bit of research from mostly animal models. So it's not, oh, there's my cat, Penny. Penny, you can't come over right now. Mostly in animal models, which means we can't really put like our hat on it and say this is what we're going to follow, but it's informative. And the research in in animal models says that you know what, maybe coconut oil isn't bad for us. And that isn't overly surprising to me because it's actually a whole different type of fat. It's called lauric acid, and it's not found in animal sources. So there is something kind of unique and special about coconut oil. But like I said, these are mostly in animal models, so we can't really say that for sure. So for now, I would say limit your coconut oil intake. But I do personally really like it for stir fries because it has a high smoke point and it gives a really nice flavor. So something that where you're actually looking for that coconut oil flavor, I would say use coconut oil for. Great questions. Okay, the next thing is we want to keep foods minimally processed. I've already kind of alluded to this. We want to avoid ultra processed foods. What does that mean? I've got two examples here. One, we're talking about corn. So obviously corn on the cob has not really been processed. It just was picked and you can eat it. But then there's a spectrum, right? There's things that are maybe partially processed and things that over here are ultra processed. So obviously corn is okay. And Doritos, I'm not going to say never eat Doritos, but really this is not something you should be eating on a regular basis because it is a ultra processed food. And one of the ways I like to think about it is, have you ever tried to eat 10 ears of corn? It's probably not going to happen. It's extremely filling. Whereas a whole bag of Doritos can go down like that, right? And that is one of the big differences between minimally processed and ultra processed. You can eat them very quickly and then not even feel very full afterwards. And we'll talk more about that. But then there's things in the middle like canned vegetables. Not the best way to get a vegetable, but if you're going to have, this is your only option to get corn in your diet, then this is actually okay. You just give it a quick rinse, it lowers the sodium, and then you have that. But my preference would actually be for frozen vegetables. And the reason you want frozen is because often they only have one ingredient, and that's the vegetable itself, because the freezing is the preservative as opposed to the salt. So if you're worried about salt intake, frozen is definitely your friend. The other reason, and I've explained this previously, is when food is taken to the grocery store and it's traveling a long ways and then it goes to the grocery store and it's sitting there for a day or two, it's actually losing its nutritional value. Whereas frozen food is picked and frozen usually the same day. And so it's kind of at peak nutritional value. So in some ways, frozen can actually be healthier than fresh. Now, it doesn't work in every application, but having those things on hand, for instance, if you're going to do a stir fry, perhaps frozen vegetables might be easier to just have those sitting around. Another example of minimally processed. So an apple, again, something we can just pick from nature. It's there. It's a whole food. Now you can do things to that apple. You could slice it, That's totally okay. I still don't really consider that any processing, but technically it's processed. Now, applesauce. Okay, we're starting to get into something that's actually processed. And the reason that is because much of the fiber has been removed from applesauce. So you're going to have a very different response to eating an applesauce than you would an apple. In fact, you can probably eat a whole lot of applesauce and not so many apples. And so on and so forth. Apple butter, apple juice is where I really draw the line. Because at that point, it's basically sugar water. I mean, there are some nutrients in it, but you've removed a lot of the health benefits of the apple. So anything from here on down, I would really consider a processed food that you want to limit. Doesn't mean you never get to have it, but it's not something you want to have every day. And some examples would be things like apple bars, apple roll-ups, cereal, apple puffs, and then, of course, the ever popular apple gummy bear. I'm not even sure if there's actually any apple in this, but it's definitely an also ultra-processed food. Yes, Janet, eat your juice. That is exactly what we want you to do. And that goes back to that beverages having no calories, ideally, right? So it's very easy to get a lot of calories in juice, even though it's delicious and, there is some nutrition in it. It's just so easy to slip into having, 2 or 3 or even 500 calories of juice very easily. And then you don't feel full from that. See, there's another question. Canned beans. Well, technically, so this is a good caveat. So there is minimally processed, there's processed, and there's ultra processed. It's the ultra processed foods over here that we're concerned about. We're not concerned about this type of processing. So canned beans are a-okay. I'm actually a huge fan of canned beans because frankly, I'm too busy, and it's one of my hacks. If you can buy the low sodium, that's even better. But if you take them out and give them a rinse, then you've rinsed off a lot of the sodium, and it's really not that much of a problem. But canned beans, I even actually buy the rices in the packages or frozen rice so I have a quick meal with some frozen vegetables. That can take me like 15 minutes to put a meal together, which is actually faster than getting takeout. So that's one of my hacks. They're a big fan of canned beans for that reason. And yes, frozen fruit is also typically fresher than what you get at the grocery store. Now, the caveat being is if you go to the farmer's market, they've often picked them that day as well. So if you're going to use them within a day or two, then getting fresh is just as good. It's just if you want to have things kind of handy and around, frozen is the best way to go. And yes, cooking your own beans is absolutely ideal, but it's one of those things where you have to choose where you want to spend your time, and that's something I have chosen not to spend my time on. Okay, so I talked a lot about ultra-processed foods, and I told you an example of where you could eat a lot of them, but it's not just an anecdote. This isn't just a story. We actually have science behind this. The NIH did a highly controlled feeding study where they showed that the exact same diet in terms of fat, carbohydrates, protein, and even fiber. So they even added fiber to the ultra-processed diet, thinking that that would fix it. But what they found is people on the ultra-processed diet ate more calories and they gained more weight. So if you want to go on a diet, one of the easiest ways is to get rid of ultra-processed foods, period, right? That's a pretty simple hack. You can still eat all the different foods you were eating, just get the unprocessed version, and you're going to eat less and gain less weight. So yay for that. That's a simple change that we can all do, and it's going to benefit your health in the long run. Another big role for me, eat the rainbow. Why do we want to eat the rainbow? So this is a graphic from the Physicians Committee Responsive Medicine on the role of these different colors in preventing cancer. And so each one of these prevents cancer in a different way. And so if we're just thinking about cancer, man, wouldn't it be great if you could get every one of these benefits, getting all these different colors? Yes, but it's more than that. These different colors in plants actually symbolize different nutrients. Like, for instance, beta carotene is found in orange food, typically also in some red foods and green foods. And then phytonutrients, those polyphenols that we were talking about, are found in different colors as well. So the more different colors you get, the more different nutrients and phytonutrients you get. This is, again, kind of another hack, right? So you're going to have minimally processed foods and you're going to eat the rainbow, and it's really going to make sure that your diet is taking care of you and getting you everything that you need. Rainbow carrots. Yes, rainbow carrots are a great example. Like, you don't have to just have orange carrots, have multicolored carrots, and then you're getting more different colors in your diet. Thanks, Al. And why else should we eat the rainbow? So you all know that I am big about the gut microbiome, and it's important for our health. It's the microbes that live in our gut, and they actually help us digest the food that we eat. And one of the things that they do is they process those polyphenols, those phytonutrients, and without them, we wouldn't get the health benefits of them. So we need a healthy gut microbiome to actually benefit from this healthy diet. Now, how do we have a healthy gut microbiome? Well, it's not something we're really able to define at this point, but what we use as kind of a marker for a healthy gut microbiome is a diverse microbiome. So the more different kinds of microbes you have, the better. And how do you get a diverse microbiome? You do it with a diverse diet. Not overly surprising, right? Different microbes have different niches, different areas that they're happy with. Some like lots of fiber, some like lots of polyphenols. And as long as you're getting a lot of variety, you should be able to feed them all. And there was one research study by the American Gut Project that found that actually looking at 30 different plants per week is where this really panned out. So you really saw a difference in people who are hitting 30 different plants per week. Now that might sound like a lot, and it is, it's a fair number, but all sorts of different things count, right? So your herbs and spices, tea, coffee, those are different plants you're being exposed to. Any different fruit, vegetable, grain, all of that counts. And I like to get a lot of different variety throughout the week so I can get those. But even if you're going to have the same thing over and over again, like I do for my breakfast, as long as you put a lot of different plants in it, it doesn't really matter. So what I have for breakfast, and partially because I'm on the mind diet to try and keep my brain as sharp as possible, is I have 3 different kinds of berries. So that's 3 different plants right there. I have a granola that has oats in it. It has some sort of seed that I can't remember right now, hemp seeds. And I put almonds and walnuts in there. And there's, I actually put arugula on top of it. So that one's kind of crazy. And so in that one meal alone, I've now got 9 of the 30 plants that I need. And that's just one meal throughout the week. So if you think of it that way, getting to 30 shouldn't be that difficult. Thanks, Patrick. So Patrick Kaur, who, by the way, is the new Vice Program Director of the Integrative Medicine Program at GW, he says he likes shocking his students with a 30 plants a week thing. Yeah, it sounds like a lot when you first hear it. That's why I like to break it down so it's maybe not quite so overwhelming.
Leigh, I forgot. Can you include spices and herbs?
Yes. Yep. So like if you're putting cinnamon in your oatmeal, then you've got oats and cinnamon. So it's easy to just add a little bit on top to get more exposure. And it's the same idea as the rainbow too, right? You're getting these different compounds to your gut microbiome. Okay, so basically, what do you need to know? Colorful plants fuel a healthy gut microbiome. That causes an increase in diversity and richness of the microbes, which are a marker of a healthy microbiome. And really, it's also about increasing fiber, so giving them the food that they need. So how do you do that? Well, I've got a 5-minute talk here for you if you want to check this out on YouTube. But basically what you need to know is it's just 2 simple rules, which I've already explained to you now. Mostly whole unprocessed plants and a variety of different colored plants. So you can remember those 2 things, you can take care of your gut microbiome. Okay, and another really key method for doing that is prioritizing your nutrition. And how do you do that? One of them is meal prepping. So maybe having a variety of different vegetables or frozen vegetables that you put into meals throughout the week, or just making sure you have healthy food on hand. And that could be as simple as, always having some dried fruit, unsweetened dried fruit and nuts with you, or one of the minimally processed bars, things like that. That's handy because you don't know where you're going to be when you get hungry, and who knows what you might have around you. Or if you're at home, like many of us are actually working from home now, I always make sure I have my favorite snack at home, which is an apple with peanut butter. And I cut my apple and I have a little bit of minimally processed chunky peanut butter. In fact, if I could get like extra chunky, I would totally get that, but it's hard to find. And my peanut butter only has 2 ingredients, peanuts and salt, and it's pretty low in salt. So that's a healthy snack, even though it's something that is processed. It's not ultra processed. And I've left some resources here for you on doing meal prepping. And all of these are either actually created by RDs, these are created by RDs, or they're RD approved. So you have a registered dietitian who has signed off on all of these recipes. And now we're going to do a little activity. So at the Resiliency and Wellbeing Center, we use this whole health wheel. And there's all these different elements, and nutrition is just one of them, but it's one of the ones I like talking about. But the reason we do all of these things is to support our purpose. We take care of our bodies and ourselves for some reason, and it's the reason that we get up in the morning. And that's different for each one of us. And so what we do is we use the pause, notice, choose method to set things like our purpose and our goals. So we're going to walk through this method real quick. First, we're going to pause. You're going to take a deep breath in and let it out. Then we notice. What do you think, feel, and sense right now that you've paused? Then we choose, what will you do next? And the reason this is important is because if we didn't take that moment to take a deep breath and pause, often we just react. And if you've ever been in a situation where you said something in the heat of the moment and you regretted it, that's because you didn't pause, notice, and choose. So this is like a method to make sure you don't get yourself in trouble. So in general, this is a really good method, but it's also a good method to give yourself just that moment to come to composure and be self-aware, to actually choose what you think about, not maybe what you think people want you to think about, or you think what people think that you should prioritize. It's actually what you really prioritize. And so for nutrition, this is our method for pause and noticing and choosing. So first, we're going to pause and notice. How do you feel after your favorite meal? The one that you love, maybe what you have for your birthday, or I don't know, Thanksgiving or some other holiday. Maybe it's not super healthy for you, but it's your favorite and you love it. How do you feel afterwards? Not while you're eating it, afterwards. You can share in the chat if you'd like. With my favorite meal, I often overeat. So I usually feel pretty stuffed and sluggish after it. And maybe that's something I could try and work on, and I'd feel a little bit better after that favorite meal. And so then we're going to contrast that feeling. Okay, after your favorite meal, maybe you don't feel amazing, but you really enjoyed it, and that's okay. Now think about what types of food make you feel good after you eat them. Foods that maybe you're like, oh, I feel very nourished, but I also feel like I could go and into the garden or go shopping or see my grandkids and not feel weighed down. Al feels good after fish, as long as it's fresh. Yeah, fresh seafood can be quite light, especially depending on how it's prepared. My power food, I already alluded to, is an apple with peanut butter. Like for me, that is the perfect amount of food when I may be feeling a little down. I just need that little energy pickup. The fiber, it's refreshing. It's not heavy, but I also feel very fueled. Yes, Patrick, you're right. It does depend on how much you eat. So that's a really big important point. And that's part of the reason that your favorite meal often doesn't make you feel good. And often because sometimes your favorite meal has things in it that maybe aren't amazing for you. They're not the healthiest foods, they're your treat foods. Ooh, fennel pasta dish. That does sound good. Oh, pumpkin makes you feel good. Yeah, I could see that. That's very nourishing. Veggies, I agree, Jennifer. That's like one of the ones that's like, I always feel super good after eating a bunch of veggies. You feel nourished, but you don't feel heavy. And you certainly don't feel like, oh God, I have to have a nap like you do maybe after Thanksgiving. So once you've decided on a few of those foods for you, that's what we call your power foods. And so you need to identify your power foods, and then we're going to choose how will you ensure you have easy access to the power foods throughout the day. So making sure they're there for you when you need them, as opposed to getting yourself in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally starving and I don't have time to do anything. I don't have any food at home, or I don't have any food where I am, and I have to go eat some fast food or something that maybe isn't going to make you feel good. So it's about making the right healthy decision, the easy decision, because otherwise we're going to do whatever's convenient, and that might not be healthy. So now I want us to set some goals. And when we set goals, we like to use SMART goals. If you haven't heard of them, it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And basically, these are just, you're getting specific enough with your goals as it's something that you could say, okay, I've actually done that. I've accomplished the goal, and it's got this time period in which I know I need to get it done. And if you've gone past that time period, then you say, okay, I need to reassess this goal. And some examples for nutrition, a weekly goal might be that I want to make more than 50% of my daily intake plants, Monday through Friday. So I'm getting very specific. I'm focusing on the workday. Including going meatless at lunch 2 days a week. And then I've put some examples in here of how I might go meatless: Indian, salads and lentils, bean burritos. And this is also a link for if you're looking for more examples of that. So that might be one way of making a goal. Another way of making a goal could be setting a monthly goal. I'm going to bring unsweetened dried fruits and nuts with me for a snack 2 days or 2 or more days a week to reduce my intake of ultra processed foods. So this might be a good one if you're the kind of person who every once in a while your lunch wasn't enough for you and you're stuck somewhere where there's a vending machine, right? And so you don't have a lot of great options for a snack. So if you bring your own snack with you, then you're good to go. And so, I would love for you all to set a goal for yourself on how you might improve your nutrition. Perhaps it's thinking about making it more plant-based. Perhaps it's thinking about making it less processed, or maybe you want to think more about eating the rainbow, and trying to set a goal for what that might look like for yourself. And you can keep that to yourself. But I just want to point out that this is a process and it's all about following up and reassessing. So if you set a goal and I don't know, 3 weeks from now, you're like, that goal is totally unrealistic, you are not a failure. It's the goal that is a failure. And that's something we often do incorrectly. We set these goals for ourselves, which frankly are unrealistic and we cannot possibly obtain them. And then when we don't meet those goals, we feel like a failure. And we label ourselves as failures. And then we kind of just stop and give up. We're like, well, I can't do it. And none of that is actually true, right? Like you weren't a failure. We just didn't set a good goal. And so you really just need to reassess the goal. Like, was that goal going to fit into my lifestyle or not? And then every time, again, okay, this goal is not working. How can I tweak it to make it work better for me? And then you will be successful because you're actually working with you and yourself instead of against yourself. And so that's all that I have for today. And of course, a plug for our podcast. I'm sure you are all listeners already, but I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so we can just take a few questions and maybe chat. And then I can see the chat a little better. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand as well. Or just unmute. Oh, that's a tough question. What is a good substitute for eggplant for those who can't or don't want to eat it? Because I feel like that's really recipe specific. One of the things that naturally comes to my mind would be zucchini, because it could have a similar texture. Like if you're going to do, a quick saute, zucchini might be very similar. Or if you want to do, like I actually make a zucchini lasagna, and some people do it with eggplant. So that might be one to look at it. Sheila, you have your hand raised.
I want to back to the oil. We've had speakers that promote the ghee.
Yes.
And it's saturated fat situation.
It's a great question. So ghee is butter. It's a type of butter, and because of that, it is typically solid at room temperature, and so is saturated fat. That being said, if you have a grass-fed butter or a grass-fed ghee, they are much higher in the healthy fats, and so it actually tends to be, it's not purely saturated fat. And so if you are going to use ghee because you like the flavor, then I say go for it. But if you're using it because you think it's healthy, and you don't necessarily enjoy the flavor, then I would say choose something else, like an olive oil. Particularly if you're like, if you're using something where maybe you didn't even want that butter flavor. But I think a lot of people like the butter flavor, so I would say, use the grass-fed version and just enjoy it.
But isn't it almost like cooking the milk is taken out, but it's like cooking with butter, isn't that right?
100%. It is like cooking with butter, yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the hacks that I like to use is, just to cook with a regular oil. Let's say it's olive oil or avocado oil. And if you want to give it that little extra boost of decadency, put a little bit of butter in, like enough for a thin pat of butter.
Yeah, I agree. And mixing oils mixing fats is a great way to do that, because you've kind of got the health benefits of the olive oil, but you're getting the flavor of the butter there. And so that's a great compromise, particularly when you are looking for that butter flavor. Thanks. Jennifer, you have a question?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add to the eggplant comments. Wild or portobello mushrooms.
Oh, yes. Yeah, mushrooms could also work.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. Any other questions or? All right. If not, I will turn it over to Catherine and we can go into the mind-body practice.
Wait a minute, I have one more
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
Do you work with individuals? You have a resiliency center and all of that. Could you maybe in a couple of sentences talk about that?
That's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the GW Resiliency and Wellbeing Center is actually internally facing, and that means that we serve the medical and healthcare professionals at GW. So we actually don't see patients in that sense. And then I actually also don't have a clinical practice. So this is what I do. I'm an educator. So I teach other healthcare providers how to talk to their patients about nutrition. I teach them how to think about their own nutrition and then give talks like this. And I'm also a researcher, so I do a lot of research. But if you have specific questions that, I think I just got muted. If you have specific questions, feel free to shoot them to Janet, and then we can either, maybe take a few of them and I can come back and do like a question and answer session, or, I can always let her respond via email as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Now, we also have a lot of resources on the Resiliency and Wellbeing website that are available to anybody who goes to the website and just clicks through them. So
very good point. And I have a bunch of lectures on there too.
And we also have different events going on. Now, the events that we usually have going on are usually focused at a health professional learning level. But if that's something that you're into, please feel free to attend, but please understand that they're focused on the level of a health professional learner.
All right, Catherine, it's your turn. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for being here. That was a wonderful talk. I love all this talk about nutrition and food options. But now we're gonna close out with a mind-body practice. And I think for today, I wanna do a guided visualization for you all. So as always, if you've been in one of these sessions with me before, I always invite you all to get comfortable. If you haven't, wherever you are, if you're seated, maybe if you're reclined, bring in any resources that you might need to get a little more comfortable. So whether that's pillows, cushions, maybe adjusting yourself in your seat or the surface beneath you, whatever it is you need to do to get a little more comfortable wherever you are. If you also want to turn on maybe any relaxing, calming music for yourself, I invite you to do that as well. Just taking a moment here, noticing if you can settle in, settle down, become a little more present. And wherever you are here in this moment, I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale, sigh it out through your mouth. Maybe feel your shoulders draw down away from your ears. Maybe notice if you want to just shake your arms out, your hands out, seeing if they can soften a little more where you are. And 2 more times, I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and sigh it out. And again, deep breath in. Exhale, release your breath. I invite you here to pause and notice your breath as it is right now. Notice what it feels like to breathe. And for these next few moments, continue to focus on your breath. Focus on your breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Breathe in and out. I invite you to continue to breathe slowly and peacefully, or at a pace that feels most comfortable for you, as you invite any tension to start to leave your body. Release areas of tension, feeling your muscles relax, and become more comfortable with each breath. Continue to allow your breathing to relax you. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3. And now breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, and exhale out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that felt comfortable for you, I invite you to do this once more, one more round, breathing slowly, comfortably. Using this time to be a little more gentle with your breath and your body. And as your body relaxes, allow your breathing to relax and slow down as well. I invite you now to begin to create a picture in your mind of a place where you can completely relax. Perhaps imagine what this place needs to be like in order for you to feel calm and relaxed. Perhaps start with the physical layout of the place you're imagining. Where is this peaceful place for you? You might envision somewhere outdoors or perhaps indoors. It might be a small place or maybe a large one. In your mind's eye, create an image of this place. Maybe even imagine yourself there now. Now picture some more details about your peaceful, safe place. Notice if you're alone, or perhaps is someone else with you here? Are other people present? Or maybe is it animals, birds, other creatures? Imagine who may be in this place with you. if any at all. Notice what the place feels like, whether it's just you or there are others around. Imagine now even more detail of your surroundings. Focus now on any relaxing sounds around you in your peaceful place. Can you hear the breeze, or maybe the sound of animals or people? Is there music, or maybe the sound of the weather outside? Or is it silent where you are? Whatever any sounds are, take them in fully. Allow yourself to notice what it feels like to listen. Immersing yourself even more in your place. I invite you now to imagine any tastes or smells your place has to offer. And now imagine the sensation of touch. Notice the temperature, any breeze that may be present, any surface that you're on, or textures, if any, around you. Look around and notice the details of this calming place in your mind. Focus now on the sights of your place. Notice any colors. Are there any colors that stick out to you more than others? Are there any shapes that you notice? Objects, plants? Is there any water? Just taking in more and more all of the beautiful things that make your place enjoyable. Feel free to add any here, maybe that you want to see more of. Imagining yourself there fully. Perhaps what are you doing in this place beyond noticing? Are you sitting? Are you walking around? Are you relaxing or doing any activities here? And whatever you are doing, imagine a feeling of calm, of peace with you here. Here is a place where there are no worries, cares, or concerns. This is a safe place where you can simply relax, rejuvenate, and enjoy just being. Notice even what it feels like to be able to just be. I invite you to remain here for a few more minutes, I'll mind the time and let you know when it's time to come out. Start the clock for 3 minutes so you can enjoy your peaceful place a little more. And beginning to take 5 more rounds of breath where you are, enjoying your peaceful place for just a few more moments. Breathing as you begin to say goodbye to your place for now, knowing that you can always return to this place in your mind when you need a break, when you need to relax, reset, and perhaps take a mental vacation to regroup before returning back to your normal role. Feel free to create a picture in your mind that you can return to the next time you want to come back here, filing it away in a place in your mind for when you need it next and most. As you continue to breathe, I invite you to begin making any small, gentle movements and stretches in your body. Maybe in your hands, maybe stretching out your fingers, your arms, maybe rolling your ankles, stretching out your legs, maybe even just rocking your head side to side. Notice if you can maintain that sense of peace and calm as you begin to reawaken the body. And as we return to our virtual space together. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, everyone. I think we can agree that was a wonderful practice. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling much more relaxed. Let me notice. Okay, good. People are just giving Catherine thank yous in the chat. And before we sign off today, I would like to introduce everyone to Jennifer Lasnik, who is going to be giving a wellness talk next week. Jennifer, could you tell them a little bit about you?
Of course. I'm an integrative health coach. I specialize in working with women. I'm nationally board certified, and I'm an occupational therapist. And I've been a health coach for about 15 years in working in really just foundational wellness and every pillar of health, body, mind, and spirit. So, yeah.
Remind me of what the topic is. It going to be about menopause, or
No,
do we
it's
decide?
about anxiety. And I'm talking about anxiety and blood sugar regulation and
Ooh.
the chicken and egg relationship there.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, because anxiety is a pandemic, so I think it's important to address, and it stems from a lot of different causes that aren't even looked at. So that's what I'm speaking on.
All right, so tell your friends that they really need to be here with us next week, and we hope to see you back too. Everyone have a lovely weekend.
Jeanette,
Yes.
Thanks,
before we
Jeanette.
go, can I ask you what?
Oh, no, go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I pronounced your name wrong. I'm not great with technology. Are you the person who puts it so that I become big?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
okay, so you do all that.
Yeah, I do all that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, don't worry about any of that. Just bring
Okay.
yourself.
Okay,
And
thank
your
you.
wonderful knowledge.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you next week, everybody.
Yep. Take care.
Bye. Bye.